TownHall Heroes. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome here to TownHall Heroes episode number 137. My name is still Solid Jake, but this week we've got Dunk Train. And Dunk Train, when I put that logo next to your name, I wasn't sure I put the Arcanate one or the Dignitas one. I'm conflicted. I feel like I've almost lost my mate.
I can be the double logo guy. That'll work for me.
Oh, Baker, do I have to update it?
I mean, technically, I don't think I have any official affiliation yet, so I'm good with Arcanate for now.
Well, we've also got Bakery, and we'll get to him in a minute. But Dunk, I actually want to hear your initial thoughts on your journey, Berlin to Katowice.
Well, there was a lot of airplaning involved, of course. But other than that, the bootcamp itself was really fun. I had a good time with all the Dignitas guys hanging out, and the practice, I think, was really useful. And then at actual Katowice, we, of course, were at the tournament. The tournament did not start as well as we had hoped, falling into the lower bracket in our second match, but then clawing our way back, and it was great. I mean, it's pretty much nothing else you could say. The dream run back from the lower bracket, 0-2 into reverse sweep into full 5-game series. It's pretty insane, honestly. Like, 13 games in one day is really tough. So props to the guys for managing to do that.
So Bakery, 13 games in one day. I mean, was exhaustion a factor, or were you just beyond that point?
I think it varied across the day. I think going. So we start Team 8. Where our first game we're pretty rusty, but the next two fairly solid. Going to Misfits, we're warmed up now, but then we end up playing this really weird comp that just doesn't work at all. In the first game. So we lose that one, and then the second one, it's okay. Then we got a solid comp now, and then we throw that one on core.
Yep.
And then those next 3 games, we are in the zone. That is we're really warmed up and we're playing well. And then going to Fnatic, I think as soon as we won, as soon as we took that reverse sweep, and we had food, and we were oh hey, we didn't have that high expectations, but we just beat Misfits 4-1, right, guys? That's what happened in that series. So we felt really confident going to Fnatic, and then I said it on stage, we felt like we could do anything. And the first 2 games, JPO's Tyrande Stitches comp came out, very, very convincing. That felt really good to play. Obviously, I think Sign's game, let's just gloss over that one. Sky Temple game, quite a few misplays from us at this point, the fatigue setting in, it's getting pretty hard. But in the 5th and final game, we got our focus back, and we were able to take the series, and the tournament.
So let's actually rewind a little bit here in Katowice to the moment where you're in game number 5 on versus Misfits. In this decider match, right? This is it. Misfits is hyped up, number 1 team coming out of the league, and you guys are going neck and neck with them. And then we're sitting there from my point of view, I'm sitting there on the desk with the other guys talking about this, and you guys go for the last pick of Tyrande. I cannot remember the last time I saw you play Tyrande. Honest, do you know the last time you played Tyrande in tournament?
I believe I actually played 1 or 2 games at Katowice last year.
Oh, really?
That was the Solo Tyrande, Solo Tassadar meta, if you remember. I definitely have not played it since then in competitive.
So it's been a year. You guys decide to bust it out on BOE. It makes some sense. And I think everyone in the world thought, okay, that's their one Tyrande game. They threw it out there. What was the logic between busting it out in the next series? Like, was that just like you guys open up the Tyrande Stitches? Was that almost like a double play for you? Like the confidence play of like, look, we just did this. We're going to do it again.
It's hard to say. Like, I think against like the way that we see Misfits and Fnatic is Misfits always have the meta, and then Fnatic always go for like the counter meta, right? They're always doing something a little bit different, and it always works really well against whatever else is doing. So I think like we planned to do something different against Fnatic. We weren't quite sure what, but it did end up being that Tyrande. And against Misfits, I think it just kind of lined up, where we're in this position where I think we were kind of choked on supports anyway, like as part of Misfits strategy, and we were like, oh hey, like that Tyrande sure looks good here, guys. Like, so we just decided to bust out and try it, and yeah, I don't think like any team would have predicted that Tyrande was something we were planning to use like extensively when it was like a game 5 pick. So
yeah, it was just such a cool series, like to go from you guys doing that and then winning with Tyrande again after that. That was Tyrande Rhaegar, a little bit different. That was Snitch on Tyrande that time. And then they had the rollover comp in game 3 where they got momentum with the Lucio. Dude, when I saw Lucio speed boost and then Rhaegar throw his E onto an ETC as part of their engage on the side of Fnatic, I was like, that is the fastest moving hero unit I've ever seen in my life. But it was like such a unique counter. Like Dunk overall, like, you know, when you were in the crowd watching this series, watching this Tyrande get play on the side of the team that you're coaching, like, were you terrified in the initial moments, and what were your overall impressions of the experience?
The Tyrande, the first time she got played on Battlefield of Eternity, I wasn't really worried about it because she's super strong there.
Yeah,
it's probably her best map, no question. Just because you crush the race with the mark starting from level 1, whereas a lot of other heroes don't get mark until like level 16, and theirs don't even last as long typically. So I was really comfortable with the draft on Battlefield of Eternity, but when JPL wanted to pick it on Spider Queen to open up the next set, I wasn't really sure if he was crazy or we were just happy with second place. But, you know, he had a lot of faith in his Stitches and the comp overall, so it ended up working out. But I was nervous a little bit.
Now that we're talking about that Tomb of the Spider Queen game, I think there is one of the coolest moments I've ever seen in competitive heroes. One of the ballsiest moments I've ever seen in competitive heroes. Now, I don't have the clip ready. I did see it on Reddit. Hopefully a lot of people have seen it. But you guys were at the boss pit late game, and Jay throws out the fishing hook. And before the hook even connects, Sulf Smash is cast in the position of the hook, just full YOLO. If we get this, we win the game. If we lose this, we probably lose the game. And you guys managed to get the blow up on Tyrael before Saint could ever be used. But like, was Zaylia just like, screw it, I'm going? Or was that like planned?
So what happened was, well, obviously we're like basing around boss. We've had a huge advantage this game, and boss is like what we think we can need to do to end it. We're like, okay, this is like we're trying to close out the game here. Like, let's go for boss. So I think JPL was like, okay, guys, let's like trap the boss, and then like they show in bot lane or something. So we were like, okay, go, let's start the boss. When we're like on the boss for a few seconds, maybe Zaylia calls like, we need to kill Tyrael, and just instantly Jay's like, I'm gonna hook him. And then as soon as Jay says like, I'm gonna hook him, Zaylia's like, I'm gonna smash it. And like all of this across like 1 second. And
that's the
sure enough, Tyrael like walks up on the minion wave, like JPL just goes for the hook, like Zaylia 100% faith, Mane 100% faith, both just insta drop their ults. Like, as the hook's about to land even. Like, it's really insane.
Yeah, because you have to preemptively cast that. That's like one of those things where it's like a lunar flare. You you have to guess. Maybe you guys did have Vision Twitch chat's calling me out on that, but that's fine. That's fine. Still, regardless, that was such an epic moment. And then, God, I look at this event and I was like, some of the most badass plays we've ever seen. Like there was that. There was the 4-man leyline seal under the molten core at the end of the series with like that was just like, oh my God, like Bakery, dunk.
There were a lot of times this tournament actually where people like start calling plays at the same time, and that's the first time that's happened with this lineup. So that was like really cool. Like that ley lane one, Snitch is saying like, guys, I have ley lane, like we can definitely fight this. And like as he's saying that, Zele is calling like, I have molten core, I can take this fort. And like they're both setting up for the play at like the exact same time, and then obviously it all comes together.
Lauren in Twitch chat just linked the clip so we can just take one look at it here. But yeah, this was one heck of a way to start the series. Jesus.
I didn't realize how close Breeze was actually to tanking that hook when it actually happened. But
we didn't actually have vision of Breeze. We only had vision of Tyrael. So
yeah, that was close.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Such a badass play. It really was. So going throughout the series, obviously you guys are 13 games deep. I mean, I don't even know the questions to ask here because it's just like, it's obvious that you guys felt amazing when you won it, but like going into the event, what were your thoughts like that you could win it? Because before day one of the event, you guys said we're at 65% power level, whatever that means. And obviously you just, as you just mentioned, the team for the first time had those cohesive calls together towards the end of the event. So do you feel like something just clicked? You guys finally like got thrown into the dirt enough to the point where you banded together and rose to full power?
I think coming into the event, obviously JPL, he loves his percentages of like 65% or whatever. I think the answer that most of us were giving to like, how are you guys going to do this tournament, was something to the effect of like, if we play well, we can win it. A lot like, and that's what everyone kept saying. The quote that I said actually, to some of the players at the event was like, if we understand our comp and we understand the opponent's comp, then we're not going to lose. Like, obviously there were quite a few times in this tournament where we didn't understand either our comp or the opponent's comp, but when we did, we really nailed it, I think.
Yeah, I think overall the team ended up playing really well together once they were playing things they were comfortable with.
Yeah, I mean, you guys won the esports, man. You won the video game, so that certainly speaks for itself. All right, so overall, looking at the other teams, how do you feel they played? Like, let's start with Europe. How do you feel that Misfits performed? To their potential, a little bit worse, a little bit better?
I guess I'll go first. I have less, I would say, experience with Misfits than Bakery, because I only committed to scrims a couple weeks before the event and then saw their tournament play. They definitely were still asleep in their first match against Australia.
Yeah.
But then in the rest of the tournament, hard to say. I feel like their placing overall was about what I expected. I honestly thought that we had a better than even shot against them. I felt really comfortable going into their tournament against Misfits as Dignitas. Just based on my experience, it always felt like we could have won every game we played against them. And I think that's a good place to be coming into an event, especially if you know for sure that you have the kind of players who really step it up. And I think they performed about as well as I expected. They got bodied a little bit harder, I would say, by Fnatic than I expected, but the result of the series was...
Oh, the winner's side?
Yeah. Yeah, the winner's semis. They got bodied really hard, and I didn't expect it to be quite so one-sided.
I'd say, yeah, similar thoughts from my side. I think before the event, I was saying quite a lot. Like, people think that Misfits are, like, way ahead of, like, us and Fnatic right now because they beat us both in, I guess, convincing series. But the thing that I think people didn't realize is they played those games in the first week. And in the first week, sure, they were way ahead. But I think after the first week, it was always really close between the top three. And coming towards the end of the season, I think we were stepping up, and I think Fnatic was stepping up a lot. And Misfits just didn't really have that. In terms of their series versus Fnatic in the winners finals, I was expecting a 3-1, but I thought Misfits would actually like have control of one game. But it was basically 4-0 for Fnatic, that series.
Yeah, with one core throw.
Yeah.
Oh man, that core attempt was pretty silly. Yeah.
Feels bad, man. I'm looking at the draft here.
Of the Fnatic Misfits one that Misfits actually won.
Yeah, that was the
Spider Queen.
Yeah.
They go for a core all-in, which should definitely work out, but Darkmock baits them into wasting like an infinite amount of time, and
Quacknix starts attacking like catapults, and then he like rolls into core or something,
God.
and it gets really weird.
Yeah, that was something else. Some slight mistakes, but the pressure. I mean, we saw a lot of games like that. Kalaris core is coming through a few times. He walked in the venue, made you guys lose the game. You know, the classic.
Yeah. The power of Kalaris just being at the event, dude. He's strong.
It's quite funny. As soon he came in for that Cursed Hollow game, like towards the end when we were like getting the bosses, and then we threw the game. So thanks, guys. But the one thing I will say about that Tomb game between Misfits and Fnatic is that they actually played that team fight on top where they kind of got back into the game so well. It was like super nice execution. I was really impressed.
The Misfits side, you mean?
Yeah. It was like, I think it might have been 20 versus 18 or something. And
I'm pretty sure it was.
It was nice to hack a flank, if I remember correctly. That helped them solidify that fight. But I mean, overall, really cool event. We can talk a little bit about the meta that we saw in that tournament. I mean, I know we've talked about your Tyrande. That was kind of its own little secluded, confined thing. But one of the other heroes that we saw rise up in prominence that I wasn't too sure how it would pan out, and it actually had pretty mixed results, was Greymane with Cursed Bullet. He had a high prioritization for a lot of teams. He saw a ton of play. I'll try to find his actual stat for where he landed, but how do you guys feel about that? Because it's not like it was a guarantee for Cursed Bullet. He did see some games with Go for the Throat.
I think Cursed Bullet's really strong. Going into the event, I expected a little more Varian play, to be honest. Like, I expected him to have even higher popularity than he did, and I expected one of the primary ways to do that to be the blow up the first target you see, and Cursed Bullet's really strong in that style. But that didn't actually happen all that much, to be honest. I was a little surprised.
Just comparing the two, Greymane had a 50% win rate. He was 47% involvement, only banned 8% of the time, whereas Varian won 60% of the games and was also only a 52% involvement rate. So pretty similar overall for the two, obviously fulfilling different parts of it, but...
This doesn't really make sense, but I feel like this has to be the reason. Like, the patch that came one day before the event, and just like it was literally the last day of practice. We wake up and there's a patch that's come, and it's just like completely changed Varian, like nerf Lucio. Even there are a few like changes, and I honestly think that really threw teams off. Like, I think if we hadn't seen that patch like on the last day of practice when teams were practicing like their final compositions for the event, then Varian would have had like 80% or higher participation. Like, I'm almost sure of it.
You think that just because he was going to be changed in the future, they wanted to lean away from him? Just a mental thing almost?
No. I think it's just that on that last day, that's like getting everything ready. And so your final scrims on that day, you cannot play Varian. And I think that was a big part. Like, people just start planning like without him kind of subconsciously.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. I didn't think about that as maybe an influence, but it would definitely make sense.
Yeah, well, that's the deal. It's funny looking at some of these stats because like not all these heroes were played a ton, but of the heroes that were played a lot, Dahaka had the highest win rate, 16 games, and he had a 69% win rate. I don't think that's a surprise. Dahaka, I mean, we look at BlizzCon even. He was that hero that really just rose up, right? Whenever we get to these international events, it's always been like, Falstad and Zeratul on the rise, but the last two, it's like Dahaka's also in there, although he's seen quite a bit of play in HGC, but that's still a really high win rate for the hero. Some of the nicher ones, Tracer, 6-0. Actually didn't drop a game on Tracer when she was played. She won every single game she was in. Nazeebo went 6-1. That's not too shabby. Obviously was played a lot by Misfits in their games. But Brightwing saw a total of 5 games. She's dead. And Malf was played in every single game.
Yeah.
I mean, we got to be expecting some more nerfs to Malf. What do you guys think? Like, it's the support situation is really kind of weird right now. It's just like Malf, or then what do we get after that? It feels bad, man.
I think the issue with the supports right now, to be honest, is that I like none of them are good in every situation. Like
Except Malf.
I mean, whoa. So Malf's good in like every single situation. Rhaegar is like almost good in every situation, but he's still like he's got one heal and a 9-second cooldown until level 13. Like that's just a huge issue. Mm-hmm. But the fact that he has cleanse and he has decent sustain and he has burst and he does have ancestral, make him okay.
He has clear too. It's another.
Yeah. Like Rhaegar has pretty much everything, but like then when you look at every other support, it's like Brightwing, no burst here at all. Weak sustain even. Lucio, no cleanse. Karazim, no cleanse till 16. Oriel, no cleanse, and also you need a setup for it.
She's dead. Like triple dead.
Yeah, really. And then obviously medic, like extremely situational. Like I think we just need more like general purpose. These supports aren't that bad in any situation, because I think that's actually hurting just like draft in general right now. Is the fact that if you want to pick a general purpose support, it has to be Malfa Rhaegar.
Yeah, and Rhaegar had a 37% win rate at this event. Like, third most popular hero, he saw 29 games played and 37% win rate. So if your second best support that's in a general role has almost half the win rate of your best support, not a good sign.
I mean, I think we can really just look at that stat and say Bloodlust was played a lot more at this event than anything else, so it makes sense his win rate was shit. Captain Pride, boys.
I actually, that's a good point. I was really confused by the Bloodlust. Like, I did not get it at all.
People were running it in comps where they had like half an auto attacker. It'd be like double support, Rhaegar mage. I mean, double tank, Rhaegar mage, and like one kind of like a Vala who's like still half magic physical. And you're like, this seems like a Bloodlust game.
I saw it with a Chromie, and it's like I get like the slowing sands with Bloodlust. I think that was Fnatic doing it with Shrimpy and Chromie, and it's like it was cool, and I'm all for it. But there were some fights where it's like if they had Ancestral on their tank, they probably would have won the fight. Like I don't know if Bloodlust had the same kind of impact. Like I don't know. I love the ability, obviously, but I wanted to like give it credit for some of the wins it got, and I was just like, it never once, maybe once seemed like it was the difference in a fight. So, whereas Ancestral's such a big spell, man, it really is. What about Lucio? While we're on the topic of supports, I mean, obviously he saw a lot of play towards the end. The event opened up almost no Lucio, and then we started to see more and more of him out of both NA and EU. You think he's in a good spot? I mean, no cleanse, obviously, that sucks. But like, he's so good in the late game.
Okay, so I don't want to flame, but I think I need to ask some questions here. Okay. I haven't checked over the past few days, but when I checked at the event, on Hot Slugs, the correct level 7 talents had something like a 93% pick rate. Almost every single, like, European, North American, Korean, Chinese Hero League player correctly identified the good level 7 talent on Lucio. Somehow, every North American professional support player picked by far the worst one that got
Boombox.
0 value every single time it was placed. How did that happen?
I don't. I mean, Bakery. It's called Boombox, and he plays music. It's just fun. Plus, it's so cute. Have you ever seen it? My God, is it cute?
It is really cute, actually. You're right.
If it's cute is the best reason you have for choosing something for competitive, you're probably doing it wrong. I mean, I don't know. The talent just does nothing.
Feels bad, man.
Lucio only won in the hands of Fnatic, though. Like,
Ever?
yeah, well, at Western Clash.
Well, yeah, that's what I meant.
Of his games,
Wow.
he only won 3, and they were all on Fnatic. I personally don't think he's good for competitive in his current state. Like, his power spike is just way too late. Even the game that Fnatic played him against us, I feel like it was mostly us not playing well, like them capitalizing on our mistakes rather than Lucio having anything to do with their victory, to be honest.
I felt like Lucio did have value for them, but I also feel like he might not have had value had we had, like, not double support to Ande. I think double support to Ande gave him a lot of value, like, inherently, and then we played really badly, and then that's why he had so much value. So, like, I didn't play Lucio once this event. I would have liked to, because he's my favorite hero right now, but I think there's just too many issues in terms of, like, if you go in and you boost healing, then you have, like, right wing heals or no speed boost for the next, like, 15 seconds. Like, it's just too big a downtime, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to make work. Obviously, you didn't try. What about Tassadar? Tassadar is another hero that's been, like, super prominent for, like, a while now. Yes, he's going to be seeing some big changes for the upcoming live server, or already has, rather. But it felt like he wasn't as much of a threat, and even when he was seen used, it never felt like the Doom Tassadar we once had. Have teams just learned how to play against Tassadar better, you think?
I can't speak for the rest of the tournament, but I will quickly say about the finals. We, as a team, are not big fans of Tassadar on either side. It kind of just, it's forgiving if you play it. And, like, when we play well, we don't make many mistakes. And when we play well, we want to capitalize the enemy mistakes. So if Tassadar is just out of the game, that's the best case scenario for us. And we knew that Fnatic did not like the hero at all. So we are more than happy to just let it go through draft every single time in the final.
Even when he was played, though, 5-3 wins and losses. Like, that's not that impressive overall. It seems relatively okay, but I think NA was the region that was still looking toward, like, I think Tempo got him first pick several times when they were able to, but it didn't seem like too many teams valued him as the first pick. They were always going for Dahaka or sometimes Varian, Malfurion, obviously, if he was open. Where do you guys think Tassadar will sit moving forward with the changes in the last patch that on live?
Not sure. I actually haven't played the new Tassadar.
Okay.
Like, I don't know.
All right. Well,
you might just have to go a different talent, and, like, they nerfed the shit out of the armor talent, like, right before this tournament. So, or like the tournament the patch this tournament was on, they nerfed the armor talent, so it's like half as effective as it was before.
Yeah, it's way worse.
So yeah, I think teams didn't get quite as like they kept picking the armor talent, and I think they weren't used to the new value or something. It just wasn't quite as effective.
Just to find another few facts here, Zul'jin never got played. Valera lost the one game she saw. Hammer lost the one game she saw. New Murky, untouched. I think he was banned once. Is it listed here? Yeah, he was banned once. And Muradin, he had an abysmal win rate too, right? Muradin and Diablo had like horrible win rates. Diablo had a 25% win rate. Europe
Muradin had a 31.
Yeah,
Wow.
Europe almost never touched Diablo. I think there was like one game where I saw a European team play Diablo, which was really interesting to me.
I think Misfits played him once, if I remember correctly.
Twice. And teammate played him twice.
Johanna had a 25% win rate. So it's like the tank meta might be as bad as the support meta. Like, it's like...
Jake, that's next patch.
Ah, yeah, you're right.
This might be the first big event where... Dahaka, was he the most played tank? I think that's like the first time he's actually the most played.
16?
It's interesting.
No, that's 16.
Highest popularity, but I think he has more bans than the other tanks. Okay. Nope. Highest played tank. Interesting.
Yeah.
New
ADC
era,
was
boys.
63. Varian was 52%. Muradin was 50%. And then Tyrael, who was only played 39% or 34% of the time, had one of the highest win rates. A noob, wow, 83% win rate?
Yeah.
I think that kind of stat is very skewed though,
True.
because a noob is only picked when a noob is going to win the game.
Right, that's right.
Like he's not picked otherwise. So.
Yeah. Any other weird takeaways for like the meta? Like Chromie obviously saw a rise. We got to see Mene bust out of Scrummy for the first time.
I don't know. I think pretty much what I expected personally going into the event. Trying to think if there's anything really outstanding. I thought Murky would see at least one game, to be honest.
I also
didn't-
thought Murky
yeah.
would see a few games.
I didn't think he would actually be good, but I definitely thought some teams would try to play him a game here or there. But he just didn't even see one pick. Oh, man. Sad times for our little fish friend. Uther also left on the sidelines. Feels bad, man.
I hope they got a good update for him coming up or something, because I don't know. Uther's like the original support in the game, and he is booty butt cheeks. He's really not in a good spot. Okay, well, obviously, awesome event. Again, a big congrats to you, Bakery, for defending your title and for having your sweet face plastered on the side of the entrance that everyone could pose with.
That was definitely a positive point, yeah. Big face. Although I actually I was much more happy with the huge like drape of us winning last year.
Yeah.
Like right next to the stage. That made me so happy.
That is cool. One thing I got to give IEM credit for is they're honoring their champions of like previous years, because I swung by the StarCraft 2 stage just to like say hi to Tastosis and Calaris and stuff briefly. While they started before us, it was while we were in rehearsal one day, and behind their analyst desk, they actually had like a series of like monitors that were all just showing photos from like the last 5 or 6 years of IEMs at the event that were like in black and white, and made it look like all this history from out the game. But like it was like the sickest thing, like because StarCraft's been an integral part of IEM for so long. But obviously just a little thing of posting that massive banner of you guys hoisting the trophy last year, it adds a lot. It really does, because it brings that history into the event, and that's 2 years in a row at Katowice with back-to-back champs of Dignitas. So we can just hope for year number 3 next year for another event, right?
I don't see why not. Sure, we can do that.
I will say, food in Katowice was brutal. It was a struggle, man.
Yeah. I mean,
so many people got sick.
I don't know if it's Katowice or just just the event, but
Yeah.
something has definitely gone wrong, I think.
We're
Yeah.
talking about the catering. Like,
I actually wish I had gotten to go out and get some like actual food, in Poland, like find some actual good places to eat, some traditional food or whatever. I don't even know what it would have been, but that would have been really nice.
I had something at the hotel restaurant the day we arrived, and it was probably the best like authentic thing I had there. But it was like red cabbage and like some beef thing, and it was really tasty. But it had Polish gnocchi. Now I like Italian gnocchi. I'm half Polish, half Italian. Actually, I have some English blood too, but that's irrelevant. The gnocchi was terrible though. It was like this potato gnocchi. It was like the worst texture I've ever had, and I'm sure people are upset with me for not liking their potato gnocchi. But like, I'm used to Italian gnocchi, which is infinite better in my opinion. Beyond that, the sausages and shit were dope, and that was fun. Nice experiencing another culture. Did you guys get any tasty foods? And I mean, Baker, you literally only eat bananas. Dunk, did you eat any cool shit in Berlin?
Yeah, I had. I mean, the day I spent actually sightseeing, I also stopped and got like street food. Everyone talks about. I don't know if it's how it's
Currywurst?
pronounced, but Donner or Doner or
yeah.
whatever in Germany. But okay, so before realizing what it was, I thought it was like something really special or specific to Germany, but it's basically just like Turkish kebabs. Like it's basically Turkish food, but it's really common in Germany. That's why everyone talks about it in Germany. So when I had it there, I was actually confused because I thought Donner had been something else, but I mean it was really good, but it was basically just kebabs. But it was great.
Nah, it sounds dope. I'm jealous. I wanna do that someday. Go to Germany and eat their street food. It sounds like the dream. All right.
Yeah, it's good.
Let's talk about the probe. I know you guys haven't played them much. Well, let's get into the Probius discussion here. The newest hero they revealed. I'm going to open this by saying it was really cool to have them do a hero launch at an esports event because I don't think they've ever done that outside BlizzCon, which was really neat. And just bringing like a different audience into our events is always a fun thing to do right before the grand finals. I guess they announced them on day one. The deep dive right before the grand finals.
Yeah.
But Probius is kind of like a mage Gazlo, right? If we had to describe him. But I think when he was announced, we were all kind of like, oh God, another cheesy hero. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah. I saw the announcement trailer, I saw the live announcement, and there were probe noises, and I was like, oh God, I do not like the direction this is going. And then I see the trailer, and it's just all the pylons start shooting and the photon cannons, and I'm like, not another one. But actually, having played him, I think I played maybe one real game with him on PTR, and then messed around with him try modes quite a lot. I don't actually think he's very cheesy at all if you play a certain build.
A certain build.
Well, if you play W or Q build, I think he actually just plays like a mage.
I don't know. Oh, I only tried him in the try mode, but I'm skeptical. His ranges seem really bad. It feels like he has a really hard time interacting. Maybe if there are talents that fix that, he's playable, but I don't know. I think he's not as bad as I first anticipated, though. I do agree about that.
I think he's pretty interesting. I've played 3 live games as him, and he's really fun to set up with. If you understand the map, you understand the rotations and all of that. There's some really satisfying moments. I mean, obviously, I think he's easy to shut down in draft. I don't think he's going to be super good because if you can just kind of put too much pressure on him, put a lot of poke down, he is reliant on his clear is reliant on being able to place his W, which is one thing. So he's definitely not a solo lane, but when you're rotating as a group, I think that'll be really good. The fact that he can have 3 Ws down once you complete the level 1 quest talent is insane. You basically just place these bombs around. I don't have the quest talent complete, but you have all this zone control over objectives, which is really cool. you can force people to have to step into them to do something, and then you do a lot of damage. But additionally, the fact that you can draw this ultimate like down like a narrow path, which would slow them the whole way through. There's some really, really narrow hallways. I think that's gonna be a really good ult, and obviously you want to place your W's down first. But what I found in ladder is like, especially since there's so many Cho'Galls, if people poke down my pylon, it's rough because the pylon cooldown is 14 seconds. You have 2, but that's substantial, and you rely on that for mana. You rely on that for your E, but that's about it. So he's pretty fun. I'm excited for him, honestly. Like I don't know if he's gonna have the biggest impact on esports, but
yeah, I don't think so. I think he's gonna be hard to actually get value out of, to be honest. His ranges seem small, and
yeah, it really is.
I don't know. I would say the redeeming factor that kind of takes this guy a little away from the cheesiness direction is because unlike Gazlo, you can't have more than one turret out at a time, really. Right. Like, it really diminishes some of the, like, awfulness of having another turret hero in the game, because it's more like, okay, he used his turret here, either deal with it or...
I mean, it's possible he ends up being that at level 10, like the pylon overcharge. That's 2 pylons in a turret that you can power up. So if you're trying to like set up that position over Uncursed Hollow or Sky or whatever, in theory that is a viable build, but I don't think it'll be the good build.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I mean, I don't know. I don't think he's that bad. Like, I know that people are saying like that there's issues with his range, but I mean, like if you just look at like scenarios where you'd want to use him, so let's say Cursed Hollow, right? His range on his Q for the interrupt is really fine. He can have 1 pylon, like before. I'm thinking bot middle tribute. He can have 1 pylon behind his gate, very hard for anyone to kill.
True.
You wouldn't even know where it is, and that's his like safe pylon. He can. If his team is pushing him with him, he can get position. He can have an aggressive pylon for the photon cannon, and then when he has actual control of an area, it's so easy for him to do like a huge amount of damage or just zone the enemy team. I think, like in my opinion, control mages should have short ranges, but they should have tools that allow them to actually get in range like first, or maybe hold that position. So if we're talking that tribute again, if you have position on that tribute, you can have 1 W below, 1 above. Someone has to walk through that, and then you like Lime Orb like straight to the face. Like, it's a really high amount of damage.
It's true.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I honestly just think like if anyone gets really good at him and they start using him to actually control areas rather than just brawling, like I think a lot of people are right now, then he might actually have real use cases. But he is obviously still going to be situational. You don't want to put him out on Infernal Shrines or something like that.
Okay. We'll see.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. I mean, when you explain him that way, like I could see someone like Mene actually really liking him because he just kind of sets up. He's all about the position. Time will tell on the hero. He's cute though. I guess there's Protoss plushies. I'm actually gonna just try to see how bad I do at this. Level 1 Merc Camp.
I find it kind of interesting. You can actually put down multiple W's like practically in the same spot and hit someone with more than one at a time.
Yeah. So he could do a Merc Camp level 1 easily, and it literally cost him no mana. So like he's really good at merking.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, just for some context, if you take any hero that's good at merking, but not amazing, so like let's say a Veigar, then he'll take 80% of his health on a level 1 easy camp. So the fact that Probius did it like super easily with no mana cost was actually shows he's pretty good.
Yeah, and obviously that was me executing it pretty poorly. It could probably be done a lot more efficiently. So that's something interesting about him. I mean, we'll see where he ends up existing, what kind of builds come out of him. He's got a lot of builds. I think one of them even gives mana to allies.
They did. They had the same thing where they pick one ability and give it a bunch of options at one tier.
13.
So
and
for
16.
Probius at 13, he has a bunch of talents that make his pylons affect his allies. It's kind of interesting.
10%
See,
spell power.
I
and 2 mana
like
per second.
this a lot more than the previous implementations, actually. Like the Lunara one, it was, you have to talent into Wisp, because otherwise you're never going to. But this one, it feels like that there's actually like choices that you make based on the game, right? Like if you have an auto attacker, then you can give them damage. If you have a mage, you can give them ability power. You know, if you have like if you're going for that pylon build, the pylon overcharge, and obviously you want to have them set up aggressively, then you can have shielding for your allies as well.
Dude,
So I think it's actually a much more compelling talent here.
Yeah,
than
like all
the
of these
previous
are
like all-on-ones.
super good. Like,
I mean, Tass has it too. I think Lunara's maybe is just due for a look-see at it, because it doesn't feel, like you mentioned, compelling like these ones do, and like Tassadar's do. This tier also 16. I had initially wondered why they didn't do talent tiers like this in the first place, where you have all the talents for the same ability. So you can essentially, instead of spreading out talents along the talent tiers for the same ability and then ending up with talents that multiply each other, so you end up with things like multi-shot Vala build, like that were problematic. You end up with ways you can actually influence the ability in a meaningful manner on one talent tier. So I like this direction for talent trees. Although, to be honest, his 16s look a little weak to me. I don't know if anyone else feels the same, but
I was just thinking this. So I really like that with 13. I think they nailed that one. 16, I think they're going to need to change something up here, because Gravity is like slowing sands. Like this one's insane, and everything else is just like, what?
Like, boy, I can't wait to get my 16 power spike to have a 20% slow for 3.5 seconds. Obviously that kind of stuff will get fine-tuned, but just kind of funny.
The knockback could be good though. The repulsor, like, who knows? It maybe like
repulsor could be good, yeah. But
I wonder if it's probably based on the angle they are from the center of the circle. So like
in my testing, it was
That's cool. It'll be hard to use effectively, but it's still interesting.
Yeah. I wonder if the ability power reduction one will ever matter. It seems like so hard to get that to matter.
Like, it feels to me like that talent just doesn't really understand the rest of his kit and like his playstyle. Because as I was saying earlier, like they've always said this is a control mate. Like this isn't like dive the backline assassin. Like if you ever hit like a Kel'Thas or something with this, then something's gone terribly wrong. Like,
like I almost wonder if this talent should be like enemy heroes in warp rifts have their spell power reduced for as long as they stay in, and then you have the choice to like put a warp rift in, and then as you kite through it, basically you don't detonate it, so you can mitigate incoming damage. Like that seems sensible to me, but I don't know. I guess this is kind of just like
much more fitting. Yeah.
If you're gonna die to a Zeratul or something, you just put a W down and Q it in melee range and hope that it hits before he kills you with his combo in 0.5 seconds.
Time, so it's like it's not a reliable thing to do. You need to have one to fall back on, essentially. Like that's your only option for that. But it's the fact that you can have 2 or up to 3 out. It's like it's kind of works, and you kind of want to try to set yourself up for that. Anyways, it's something different at least, right? His kit is not like anyone we have in the game, really.
Yeah, that's true.
I actually really like the kind of combo of his kit. Like one of the hero designs that I always liked to see in competitive was Jace from League of Legends, where he had his Q, which you could just use as a standard, like it's a damage increase when you're just hitting someone. But if you like really set it up and you go through this speed gate and you invested like a lot of mana into it, then it did like a huge amount of damage and it was like super long range. So I really like the fact that there's like ability comboing. But I think this implementation doesn't satisfy at all. It's still pretty niche, I think. I'd love to see a hero where like they're just a normal hero and they combo their abilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Well, Probius on the PTR, if you haven't tried them, really fun. My favorite thing I've done so far is I've chased down an Arthas with my Z and queued him through the blind shadows, because you move so fast when you're chasing with the Z, and if you get hit, you lose your movement speed, but it's fun being a little probe killing Arthas. That just shouldn't be a thing, but it is now. So yay, Blizzard! We have a probe hero. Obviously, we'll talk about him more in the future once he's actually starts to get figured out, but probably won't be for a few weeks before we really go into a deep dive onto Probius builds and the like of that. Let's move on to talk about my favorite topic of the week, which is the UI updates. Now, here Blizzard has put out a whole article on basically what they're doing to update the user interface within the game. This isn't a new spectator client, although I wish it was. Actually, I can just preface that by saying if you try observing a game in the PTR, there are no changes in the ops client, which I was pretty disappointed about. I hope to see some of these features go into the spectator client for esports, because I could rant for 2 hours about how bad it is right now. But we do have the huge overhaul here, which is going to be really nice, I think, from the ground up for players to get more accustomed to playing the game. First things first, we've got the party frames at the top of the screen, which now allow you to see your team's health bars and every player's heroic ability. It will only show the cooldowns and health of your allies. There is no interaction with it. So if you're a Brightwing, you cannot click on an ally and phase shift to them or anything of the sort. I assume this is due to them just wanting to remove that clutter and not have people misclick and be upset about it.
Wait, are you serious? You can't click on the party frames?
There is zero interaction with it.
Oh, see, I'm not sure if this is like in development. Like, you can click on the party frames when we finish it. Like, we're just getting it out there, like, because we finished the visuals now. We finished like the back end, but it feels so weird to me that you would put them in like a clickable like space, right? Like,
visually, yeah.
Yeah, so if they were like either ends of the screen from each other, okay, now maybe like clicking them gets a bit harder. But the fact that like at the top, like both of them are really close to each other, like they're close to where your eyes should be as well, like next to the XP bar, like it feels like these were made to be clickable to me, and I feel like they should be as well.
So obviously, the argument here is a player clicking on it that's not used to that being there could get upset about not being able to click that, but wouldn't click through and just be like, like the mini map, be the generic fix for it, right?
Yeah, just the standard like option, like.
Mm-hmm.
Since you guys are both support players, is this a tool that you would actively use in fights? Yeah,
definitely. So I've never been more tilted about anything in competitive games than I was a very long time ago, back in 2015, in Prague, the first ever European Championship. There's a situation where, like, there's a Kel'Thas and he's on like 200 HP and he needs my Divine Shield, and it's ADRD playing it. Now Zarmony, like, runs in as a noob, like with me, like Boa's in, comes out like on top of this Kel'Thas and then proceeds to stick on him for the next 2 seconds. And I have frame by frame this replay. Kel'Thas's model is just not visible. There was nothing I could do. And then he ends up dying. And then we actually, I think we lose like 70% of that game and have this crazy boss fight to actually come back and win it. But I was so upset at the time. Like, and all I needed to do was just click that unit frame. I'd have got that Divine Shield, But yeah, like, I think the way that I see that is there definitely is debate that, like, now instead of like actually participating in the game, I'm clicking a picture, which is definitely less fun. But like, I don't know. To me, like, it's not like an intentional part of the game to block someone from clicking on someone, right? Like, there shouldn't be something you have to play around. But there's very little skill or depth in that. So I think you should just be able to click unit frames, honestly.
Well, I think that's probably good feedback. I mean, obviously, it's a new talking point, not something we've ever been able to even request. I had no idea we were getting this, honestly. Like, we've had heroes for so long. I had to play. I hosted a League of Legends tournament a couple weeks ago. Sell out, I know. But my high school had me host a league tournament, and I was watching over all the students that were playing their screens, and I noticed they had unit frames, and it even looked like you could move them into different locations on the map. It was a little bit different, but they definitely had health bars or something for their team. But again, I know very, very little about League, so I just saw it there. I was like, "Oh, that's neat." You know, it's like wow. And here we go in Heroes. One of the other big changes we have in the this screen image that we just looked at is quest talents are far easier to understand how the progress. It's not just the gold progressing. They changed the color on it, made it more of an orange, like the World of Warcraft quest logo, but they put a number on it. They've got 14. As a commentator, having that number, having that stat value as part of that quest talent is quite nice to me. And I'm just, excited to see them build upon that, because it'll help people understand, okay, 40 is done. My Tassadar has 20 globes. Cool, now we can do this, and I get more value out of it. Just easier for new players that don't read every hero's every talent to understand the power spikes that exist within the game for certain talent tiers, which is, useful.
Is it just me, or does the new talent frame look like it has a lot of empty space on it?
I was also thinking this, like, it feels like they made the icons, like, bigger or something. So I guess they're kind of easier to see, but then, like, it throws everything off.
You're talking
Maybe
about
it's just
here?
because I'm like used to it. Like, there were always these gaps, like, they signify levels. You can see, like, this team's level 12, so they've moved, like, from the level 10 talent tier, like, near the 13 one now. But I think the icons didn't fill up the whole bar before, so it looked like there was a progression, whereas now it just looks like block fill,
I think there was also like a line kind of running through behind it, like your progression, that would also track the progress of the level for each team. I could be wrong, but I think there was like a blue line that went through the center of each player's frame, and a red one behind that too, and their progress evolved with it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I think that kind of helped that negative space feel. It feels blocky almost, right? And that negative space stands out.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a big deal, honestly. But
I think we might get used to it.
Yeah,
but it does look a bit weird right
probably.
now.
yeah, exactly. So we talked about the unit frames. They're interactive. They show killing spree now, which is neat.
Oh, wait.
Go ahead.
One more thing about unit frames, okay? So there's this thing in our team where if someone like splits off and they do like a minion camp or whatever, when they come back, they usually let me know, like, hey Bakery, I need a heal. Like, I just took some downs from the minion camp, right? But there's this quite funny thing where there's no differentiation between, yo, I just did the hard, I'm 20%, to like, yo, I just did the easy, I'm 90%. It's just, hey Baker, I need a heal. So very often, like, sometimes I'm like, oh, Jay's still low, I'll just use the heal on him. And I look over at, like, Mene, let's say, and Kelfast, and he's like 20%. I'm like, oh, God. Like,
Well,
whereas other times, like, he's like, oh, Baker, I need a heal. And he's just come from, like, the minion camp. And I'm like, oh, he'll be low. So I heal him, and he was like 90% already. I just wasted the heal. Like, either way, now I can check at the top of the screen. I don't need to get baited by my teammates anymore.
Jesus. Well, it's going to be super nice. There's that. We also got the breakdown of the individual Vikings, their unique death timers in there, which is something we've never had.
That was a nice touch.
Same with Misha. You'll see Misha death timers. It pulses outward if you're hearthing, so you can see when an ally is hearthing, and actually, like, the shape of the square kind of like pulses out. This flashing is they're on fire. They're just performing well in the game. And when someone's about to respawn, it flashes kind of violently. It's overall just like it looks infinitely sexier than even any esports UI we've had. And now this is just part of the gameplay, which overall is just, I even saw on Reddit a thread, somebody's just like, I literally won't play live, and it's not because the balance changes, it's because the interface just looks so much nicer.
Yeah.
And I totally get that.
Yeah, I agree. It's a lot different. I think having that information available is just way better.
One of the things I think I was most surprised and almost impressed with by the UI team at Blizzard was this little graphic here. Now, what this shows is it shows level 21 versus level 19. And they clearly took some inspiration from Aliabs, who, when you have a talent tier advantage in Aliabs, your level, your team level is flashing if you're up a talent tier. It has like a fire on it. They took that and they took it to beyond. So props on them for acknowledging that this is a really important thing. Talent tier advantages are so important, and I find it really hard, especially sometimes in quick match, to like teach my teammates that, like, hey, it's 15-16. Let's soak and give up this tribute that doesn't give them a curse. Oftentimes people still want to fight in normal games. This right here is Blizzard's attempts in educating the masses that, like, these are very valuable things. They show the glow of the player within the game, and this will flicker on and off when you are approaching. So if you're a level short of your next talent, this little piece here flickers on and off to notify your team that, hey, we just got to get there. And then we're evened up. We're stronger. We've got those talents for our team. It's such a small thing, but I actually think it's a really almost needed and intelligent change that I was not expecting.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think translating that sort of thing to the UI, like at the most obvious level, like directly into the gameplay screen, rather than having to press tab and go to talents and see your opponent's repetier. Like if you're a new player, it's a huge difference in accessibility. So I think it's definitely good.
I gotta say, I think like the UI's always been an issue with Heroes, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever been like in a good state, but the UI team right now is like really killing it. Like there's so many like really well thought out features that are like coming, and everything that they're releasing, I'm like, that's super cool, you know? Be it like, you know, the new controls in like try mode to sandbox to obviously the XP breakdown that we got in the game.
Yep.
I think they're just doing a great job right now, so shout out to them.
Even just the aesthetics of this on fire thing that they've added is really cool. I think that's and the kill feed, something I really wasn't expecting at all. Like obviously it's fantastic in Overwatch. I enjoy it there, but this is just going to be another nice thing to just, like, you know, you see someone died, you don't want to have to hit tab or whatever if you didn't read the text in the center of the screen, you have a visual that, like, oh shit, this guy's popping off. And then you can also acknowledge, like, okay, that person rotated to bottom lane if it wasn't who was laning against him moments ago. If you're not so good at watching the minimap, it's information. You see who killed who, and then in a lot of instances for a newer player that isn't watching the minimap super consistently, they might be able to benefit from that greatly, which is, you know, again, accessibility, but also when you look at that from the esports standpoint, that's going to be dope. Like, to see someone.
I mean, I think the main point for me is it just looks cool, right?
That too.
Yeah.
It's just fun.
Yeah. I mean, there's like no possible argument against having a kill feed, except maybe like you're going to get people QQing about kill steals maybe, but it's such a huge improvement to like just the little responsiveness of the game. Like you feel a little more rewarded about playing or doing something good when you see yourself pop up or whatever. So
you can see your hero icon and be like, get like a double kill. You're gonna be like, hell to the because it it staggers, all the kills you just got. And
I think people don't really appreciate how much little UI tweaks like this can have an effect on the psychology of actually playing the game. Like it's gonna feel a lot better to play, I think, when you actually have this in the game, because this is something that I think is lacking.
Fully agree. Like, it's like, even just like you said, getting that kill, feeling more badass, the fact that it broadcasts that with that graphic, like the text broadcasted is like, I've trained myself to not read that almost. Like my brain just doesn't
Like,
register the
killed
text
by a
anymore.
solid Jake or something. Like half a second,
Yeah.
gone again. Like
It just, ugh. So this is sweet. Anything you guys feel that isn't in this, other than the functionality of clicking the party frames?
The functionality of clicking the party frames should definitely be in this.
That's it. Yeah. Bakery.
I think.
Oh, go ahead, Dunk.
Well, I know people were debating in chat at least about the validity of having the capacity to click on the ally frames for targeting spells, as some people felt like it kind of bypassed mechanical skill. I don't agree with that at all, first off, but then it kind of got me thinking on the question of like, should you be allowed to click on the enemy's party frame to try and target them with a spell? And I think that's actually a much more interesting question, because for some reason it makes intuitive sense to me that like as a support, you should be able to target your spell guaranteed on any ally. Like that tool should be available to you, because if you just like kind of imagine how like a healer would feel like playing on the battlefield, like actually imagine like a priest or something on the battlefield, you'd imagine that you'd more easily be able to target your allies with spells and not like mix up with your healing compared to like hitting an opponent with a spell.
Well,
so it makes sense
think
to me.
I think there's actually skill as well in trying to block spells, you know?
Yeah.
Like if it's the enemy a noob stood over Kel'Thas because he doesn't want you to target like loop on him or something, then that's a skillful play. Like you don't want to take away that.
Dude, what if you could target enemies with heals and then you could actually like body block to like take heals? Like what if no abilities had like targeted abilities, none of them had like locks, so you could only hit enemies or only hit allies? Like you could just always hit your enemies or your allies if you misclick. That would be so punishing, but really interesting.
I think honestly that's the main reason why, even though Holy Shock's actually really good right now on Uther, you can't take it, because if there's an enemy on your ally, that hit was going on the enemy.
That's an interesting.
Wow, that's
argument.
interesting. I hadn't thought about that until just now.
Yeah, but think how BM people could be on ladder, start healing the enemies. That would be the worst thing ever. Like that would literally be like the Illidan dives in, you divine shield him so we can kill like some. It's like, haha.
I mean, it obviously doesn't work in an environment where the whole team is not an actual team,
Right.
you know, working as a unit. Like you'd get griefers and stuff.
It's
But
like-
I hadn't
I
thought
mean,
about it. Like
if it was like an actual support whose kit could go on either, like either party or either team, maybe that'd be super fun.
Take that, Zul'jin. Eat health.
that would be interesting. Okay. Anyway, sidetracked.
Oh wait,
I
that's
was just
actually
saying.
so cool. Healing Zul'jin to like
Mitigate his damage
down.
output. Oh my god.
Like
So
you
crazy.
you draft medic against Zul'jin and you just heal him.
Zul'jin, come here.
Something about this doesn't seem quite the trade-off, but I can't put my finger on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I took the time to take the top UI and that they've created, which is now in the gameplay on the PTR, and then I slapped Aliabs on the bottom, and this is kind of what the game would look like if we had, like, say, a permanent bottom frame with Aliabs and then the new top UI. So many of you know I like to do esports productions because that's literally like what I've done for the last several years of my life. And Heroes UI has always been kind of like, I've always hated it. I think Aliabs is pretty good overall. I think it's way better than the in-game Observer UI that we have, which the talent's at the top. Top is insanely top heavy. It looks hideous to the point where for me to make myself like the look of the game on Bloodlust, I completely covered the bottom half with like a ting thing with like sponsor comments and stuff, because I'm actually one of the people that thinks that having valuable information on both the top and bottom to frame the gameplay is quite nice. Like I want the whole bottom to be like that height with the mini-map framing it. You watch Dota, you watch League, you watch StarCraft, they all have similar situations where it's framed with that information that you want. Because then you just show, you know, from the talent up, that's where you're watching. That's the window in which you're looking into the world. And obviously you always have the option to pull this away. But I would keep this up 99% of the time, really, in my personal productions. But this is like so good. The fact that we can fit the team names into the side, it makes, I feel that like a lot of, I see these comments from new people that are watching in the current designs. You see like the score, it's so close to the level. They're like, what do all these numbers mean? But this makes it very intuitive that like, you've got the score over here. Yes, I'm going into production philosophy right now on a Heroes podcast. That's fine. But you've got that completely separated. This is the team score of Terpersturm on the left and Team Dignitas. They're up 4-1 in this best of 12 series. But it's just, it's great. The only thing that Blizzard, I know you're listening right now. I'm going to say it right now to the world. At least I know one person at Blizzard is listening. I'll hope they care. This left side where the unit frame is, I feel like this is actually an important thing for the viewer. I almost wish there was a way for this bottom left corner where the unit frame was to have literally all their information, including their skills and the cooldowns, as well as their talents. How that would look, I don't know. But I think that if we had this exact UI with all the talents at the bottom like that, and then this bottom left corner was like unit select with all their information with their build, say I'm a commentator, and I want to talk about this crazy Ragnaros build with Lava Wave, like then I can, our observer can pull it up and show this kind of stuff. And I guess my other example for my want in this kind of atmosphere is there was a play where this was actually with you guys versus Team 8 on bottom keep where Glau went in on Zeratul and he popped Mene on Jaina. He just popped him. To see all of those cooldowns being cast in that moment, like if the observer was able to catch that and to see all of his abilities being cast, because you watch that play and you just see Zeratul, it's like, oh, he's broken, right? Zeratul's a broken hero. He literally just deleted that character. That's easy. Anyone could do it. But it actually requires some pretty, experienced execution. You got to have practiced that. You have to understand, how to do that. And to see all those button presses going on for that player for that combo, I think would be a compelling enough reason to justify that in some. It's a niche. It's not a common thing, but I think it would be very valuable. I don't know if you guys agree or just tuned out.
I think having some way to see exact cooldowns is very useful and ability usage. And I hadn't thought about it before, but I do like your note about having UI elements to frame the gameplay on both top and bottom. Something just seems right about it, I guess.
I feel like that's why I've always disliked when talents were left up in Heroes, but items in League I didn't mind. I think it's just the fact that they look out of place. It looks like they're coming onto the screen. That's
the problem,
rather than being like already framed there.
If you build that frame and you make it look natural, in another mock-up that actually Oberak, he might even be watching. He's often in my Discord. He created a mock-up that he literally turned the Dota 2 UI into the Heroes UI, and I was like, that looks like really quite nice. And you get all the information. It gives you like very specific spots for sponsor logos, all that. That's a different story, but I don't know. To me, it's almost like more similar to watching an individual stream. I feel like I could watch from that player's point of view rather than this almost. I almost want to blame Heroes of the Dorm for this philosophy and the way that they show stuff, because Heroes of the Dorm was on TV originally, which means everything has to be TV safe. And I feel like a lot of the design philosophy in the early UI of Heroes was influenced by that, because if you guys remember the first Heroes of the Dorm, there was no minimap or anything. It was like, how little interface can we put on the screen was the entire purpose. They're like, how little can we show? And I feel like that has impacted our current interface from the beginning. And I don't know that showing no interface. I mean, I think it's worse. I think information is better. But end jank rant.
Well, thank God for that. It would never end.
It was a long one. It was. All right. Well, we can finally get to talking about balance. And I'll be honest with you guys. I have legit not read the patch notes.
Dece.
Yep.
I think that's probably positive.
Oh yeah, I've seen a lot of discussions about it. I've played on the patch and I've felt some of it.
Discussions.
I think it's very one way.
Okay, Loading him up here. Hashtag prepared. Hashtag Jake took yesterday off and was a lazy asshole because he's jet lagged. Cho'Gall.
Hey, jet lag is no joke, man. I woke up at 2 a.m. today. Feels bad, man.
That's rough. So we're seeing some new talents. They're given like shove and I have Kilrog baseline for Cho'Gall.
The Cho'Gall changes are actually fantastic.
Why is that?
So yeah, I guess we need to go all the way through the kit, but the way that his talents like interact with his kit is super cool. I think that's one of the best implementations we've seen. And then the way that his kit now interacts with the other player is like even better. And I actually played Cho'Gall with Trixler on stream yesterday. It was so much fun, and it actually felt like there was so much more that we can do to be performing better. Whereas before in Cho'Gall, it just felt like Gao was pressing all his buttons on cooldown, and Cho was trying not to die.
So you'd say the overall experience is not only more fun, but also just more impactful?
Yeah, definitely. It's way more interactive. Just everything. It's like a complete rework.
That's too many words, man.
The trait is really well done.
Yeah, the trait's super good. But Jake, you're doing this wrong. You need to go like into the game and then just read his whole talent tree again and his abilities again.
Yeah, okay, I'll do that.
Yeah,
that's a lot of reading, Bakery.
No, but this way, you get pictures and stuff.
Oh, see,
like the
Baker
patch
gets
notes
me.
is literally just a wall of text. It's impossible to work anything out from that.
It's true though. It is a lot of it's intimidating almost. So. Bakery, obviously, you said you played him a little bit with Trick. First impressions, like, is that going to be a cheese again? Because he's been, like, gone for a while now.
So there's, like, certain synergies in his kit, right? So you can take Shove, you can reduce it by 10 seconds, so it becomes like it's now Gao's Z. You give them a small move speed buff as well. So timing the Z properly is a super big thing in fights now. Then obviously, what's that?
For like Cho's ult, you mean, or like just in general? For sure.
Oh no, so the mount, just like using that to reposition, like yourself in the fight,
okay.
or even dodge an ability, or even like a very slight movement to get in range for an ult. Like there's so much. It's like a really interesting choice for Gao. It's literally like he's got another ability.
Shit.
And then just in terms of what they've done with his talents is super cool as well. Obviously, he's got a perma ward. Like Cho'Gao's always been missing utility, and Gao's always been missing buttons. So just giving him more buttons, like that's a good thing. Like the things that they did to some of the talents, like double back, which is it's now like it's the designated like murking one, but also you can activate to decide whether you want it to come back or if you want to keep going. So stuff like this gets super cool. Like it becomes an actual game where the enemies have to try and dodge it rather than just knowing where it's going already. And then level 7 is my favorite talent they've ever added to the game, which is Ogre Rampage. It's when Cho'Gao activates his trait, so the armor one, Gao's cooldowns, which are 75% faster for 5 seconds. So you can have perma 75% like faster cooldowns, like alternating with perma 25% ability power, if like you're playing it well. But obviously, then the Cho doesn't have armor, so that gets interesting.
It's got some give and take. That's cool.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about. I feel like I could be here all night, so I'm just gonna try and sum it up basically with like all of his talents are interactive and they change the way that you play, like as a duo, and you now have to play like Cho is no longer like the chauffeur, Like it's an actual like symbiotic relationship now. It's really, really cool.
It explains why every Cho'Gall I've seen on ladder felt really weak, because you actually have to play together. Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I think Cho'Gall's such a cool concept. It's good to see that he's getting some love. We'll see where that ends up. Kerrigan, Ultra List change. Yay. I mean, they made it 10-second longer cooldown, but now the cooldown starts when it's summoned. I mean, it's fine. They did buff Rainer's Raiders. I don't know that it matters.
Just about Kerrigan quickly, I have no idea why they felt the need to like not buff that talent, you know?
Yeah.
Like why increase the cooldown? Like,
well, it's technically, I mean, if the Ultra lives for 10 seconds or longer, it's technically a buff, right? But it's still like, okay. Now, just more reason when you see the Ultra, just like, kill it. I guess that's what they're trying to do and make it feel scary. It seems, I mean, they buffed summons on Raynor and Kerrigan theoretically. Varian. Wow. Oh, taunt gives armor but reduces health gained. Reduced health gain.
So that's actually a buff. That's a huge buff, in fact.
Yeah.
For those of you who haven't done the math on this, it's more effective hit points against any percent damage and against any not percent damage. I mean, it's not actually more effective hit points against percent damage because the percent ignores the armor, but effectively your healer will be healing you a larger portion of your health pool, so it is essentially higher effective health. So that's a huge buff, actually, and it feels like compensation for the absolute gutting he got in the patch right before Katowice that we weren't playing on, where Warbringer is only a slow.
Right. Oh, it's also cooldown reduction.
Sorry?
Like Warbringer, it's also a cooldown reduction. Like a lot of people are throwing around Warbringer's 10% increase slow, but it also halves the cooldown on charge.
Yeah. Sorry, I wasn't suggesting the talent is like trash or anything.
Taking the stun away is a big deal.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll have to see. I mean, obviously, Varian has been doing pretty well overall. We've only seen, like, in this patch, they're giving Taunt some love with the armor, and they're altering that. But Taunt's been the go-to only heroic. But in the patch that is live right now that we haven't seen a tournament on, Colossal Smash is like possibly an option, right? I didn't even read those patch notes because I was in Katowice mode, and I know we all were in Katowice mode. So like, it's really weird that there's patch that I literally have been intentionally ignoring, and now we have another PTR patch on top of it.
Yeah, there's like a double patch.
Okay, this is gonna sound really weird, right? So, you know, maybe I was drunk earlier. You know, maybe I wasn't using my eyes properly. But we played, I played a game against this Varian. He went like full W build, like 1 to 7. So overpower, level 1, shield wall, live by the sword, taunt. And then his game plan, this entire game, was literally just run in. Like do not care at all about the enemy team. Just run in, like go straight for like the back line. And we literally could not touch him. Because, you know, with this level 7, it's like 40% increased duration on the parry. He'd get 2 charges, and then it would get reduced by 2 seconds because people were basic attacking him. So he'd end up going in, having like 8 seconds of like literal protected. And then since he has taunt and he has overpower, he's nuking. He ended the game with, it was something insane, like 63% damage tanked on the MVP screen. Plus the highest damage by 20k when his team had a Valor. Like, it was insane. Like, it actually felt like the most broken thing I've played against in a while.
Yeah. All the parry talents 147 are probably busted right now, to be honest, after all the buffs they've all gotten.
Wow. Varian. Where will he end up? I feel like he's still going to see a lot of changes. He's going to get... We've got our current iteration where it's just like 4-second stun. Based on what you just said, in some composition, that's going to be dumb as hell. So...
Yeah, I think this version, the non-stun on charge, I mean, I think it's going to be a little less frustrating to play against in competitive, but I'm not certain just because it sounds like stacking invulns might be annoying, but we'll see.
Down to Asmodan, Taste for Blood. Now it gives you 10 bonus damage if you kill a hero with it. Woo!
I'd like to see it be higher,
Like 25 or 26.
Yeah, maybe. Because it's like a huge deal. Like that's literally dunking someone. Like that should be like, oh my god, I just won the game.
Yeah, that should be 500 stacks instantly. And it should ignore the cap, to be honest.
I was actually thinking about like a bonus, like just ignoring the cap, like goes up to 100 or something, like just from kills.
100
A
extra.
second cap.
Like
different
just
cap.
from last hitting with it or something. It'd
With 2 caps.
be flavorful.
You could actually have that be on the base ability, to be honest, and it might make sense. Like, you could have killing blows on heroes increase the power of the ability as like part of the base ability, and then you also have Taste for Blood or Sieging Wrath as like options to further empower it. That might be interesting.
It's a cool idea.
But I don't think this really changes the...
If you did that...
I think it's still a bad talent.
You're no longer making the mistake. But if you were to put it in the baseline, you're no longer making the mistake to throw that globe in a battle, where if you think you can get the kill, that you may benefit from it in the late game, right? Because, typically when we saw Taste for Blood builds, if you had to throw a Q away from a wave of minions, you were being, inefficient, essentially, because it's all about getting to the late game.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
All right, Gazlo. Rework. So they give us a turret hero while reworking a turret hero after they rework Murky. I think everybody at Katowice was like, oh, God, why? And Gazlo sounds like he got a pretty big upgrade here. Glogan, are you happy somewhere? Probably. But, Glogan's, as far as I understand it, a Gazlo-only Hero League player and Masters or GM. So it amuses me. What do you guys think of the changes they made to him?
I mean, they're obviously buffs. I just don't really understand the change to Robo-Goblin, to be honest.
Let's start with the fact that you can now target with your turrets. How big of a change is that?
That is a big deal.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That change alone is to the point where I think that Gazlo has now become a good laner because you can actually tell the turrets to focus the hero and not to hit the minions.
Without level 10 heroic, right? It's his early.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree. I think it's going to make him super frustrating to play against if he wasn't already.
Are you excited for Gazlos that can charge their Death Later indefinitely, that will just sit there waiting for the perfect moment?
I think when they did the last Gazlo rework at the same time as the Kel'Thas and Tychus reworks, it was like I've never been more disappointed because it was like super hyped as well. Like Devs was talking about on forums on Reddit, like guys, we've got this Gazlo rework coming, it's gonna be amazing. And then it's like the same hero, they've just rejiggled down the talent tiers. But like this time, I feel like they've actually like fixed Gazlo. Like these are the changes he needed to actually feel like a hero, and not like a buff minion or something.
Or just not. He's no longer the Merc Master. So new functionality on Robo Goblin. No more PVE damage. He just gets 100% basic attack damage. That's against everything, and then you can activate to gain armor in movement speed for 2 seconds on a 1 minute cooldown. So he now has kind of he has a castable ult where he can just be like, yo, I'm literally battle mode right now, and I'm going to shred some nerds. Does he actually feel like he shreds nerds, though?
It's only 4 seconds, though.
But
that's like...
Think of the...
That's like 3 autos. I think
it might
need to be buffed, to be honest. Like this one. But it feels like being cautious. Like, they don't want to over-buff him,
I mean, to me, it just doesn't look like that ability fits Gazlo. Like, if I said, I have an ability this is heroic, it gives you 100% basic attack damage, and you can activate it to gain a movement speed increase and armor for a few seconds. What hero does that sound like? It doesn't fit Gazlo. It doesn't sound like Gazlowe. Like the PvE damage sounded like Gazlowe. Like if you want to be the kind of turd burglar who's going to go do all the mercenaries all around the map, that's a Gazlowe thing to do. It makes sense. And I feel like Robogoblin, the new one, that sounds like something that should be on a bruiser or whatever. Not like a zone control hero.
I mean, I think that's kind of the point. Like, he actually kind of feels like a, like a bruiser now, kind of. Like with Robogoblin, like he actually hits really hard. If level 20 is the highest DPS hero in the game, other than I guess like 0 HP Zorgian.
What if it made it so what if you got like resistant with it too? Would that make it OP?
Oh, like the CC mitigation?
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying it's bad actually. I'm just saying it's weird. To me, it doesn't strike me as thematic, you know.
Like, I can definitely see a point, but I think that like that's a bit what I was saying earlier. This is like new Gazlowe now, you know. Like he's actually changed.
Bakery loves new Gazlowe confirmed.
It does sound like that.
Yeah, I think he might be pretty good.
Oh no! No!
I played a few games with him. And, you know, I took Robogoblin, I just started hitting people, and it was a lot of damage.
Oh, no. Not like this.
Prepare your hero leagues! Because Robo-Gazlowe is coming. I mean, I'm glad they gave him some love finally. We'll see. As you mentioned, if you're able to get a lockdown on a lane with a lot of turrets, invading that lane is now going to be super scary, because if all those turrets turn, you take way too much damage. For sure. So maybe he will see some promise on maps where it's about controlling space. Maybe he will be a Sky Temple monster. Who knows? But time will tell with the Gazlowe. Anubarak lost some spell armor, gained a. Oh no, he lost damage too. What did they get? I thought this was a buff for him.
Yeah. So you got more shields, got less cooldowns.
Okay.
His Locust Swarm got slightly nerfed as well to compensate. In general, I'd say his talents probably got slightly stronger.
Overall, yeah. Anything... Oh, Dampen Magic removed. So he's... Are they trying to make him less of an anti-mage? Oh, your beetles have spell armor? Oh my god. What? Like, why would you get that? Why would you get that?
I don't know. I feel like there's some weird... I think this is where the weird changes start this patch.
Yeah.
I'm happy that they realized that a noob was just a real big issue. Like we touched on a bit earlier, a noob had something like 80% win rate. Because if the enemy team had picked a mage and that was kind of it for their damage, you're like, oh boy, we've got the free win. Let's just pick a noob. That was really not healthy. So I'm really glad that they're actually nerfing his anti-mage capabilities, but I guess they're trying to buff him just in general.
Yeah, I mean he's a fun hero to watch. So I think.
But yeah, so some of the new talents they added just don't really make much sense at all.
There's a lot of different things, huh? I like this, the Subterranean Shield. The effect you get a shield when you burrow gives you the option to engage and look for the fight and have that impact. That's cool. All right, that's good news. Some nice direction for Anubarak. What is this for Artanis? Reduced speed during. Oh, they just try to. It's just quality of life. What about Arthas? I've seen a ton of Arthas on the PTR, and he seems to be doing well. But how do you guys feel about these changes here? More health, more damage, more regen. Less damage, excuse me.
I think he's really, really scary. The fact that he has... Well, okay. These are also really weird changes. So the fact that you increase the heal on Death Coil... I mean, Death Coil wasn't a fun part of his kit. It was kind of what made him really oppressive in lane. So I'm not overly thrilled that they gave more healing to him. And then again in lane, they give him a stacking attack speed slow, which after this is gonna dumpster every lane. He already had really high base health, I think, one of the highest in the game, and then they buffed his health even more. I just feel like, in general, it's just moving towards a more unhealthy Arthur's kit than we had before.
You don't like the
that's actually
anti-auto
impressive.
hero?
Thinking about it.
You don't like that the idea they're trying to make him like the anti-auto attack hero?
I think that whole discussion is probably a separate topic from the specific changes, but I really dislike the fact that they're kind of trying to push Arthas into like this role, the same as they're trying to push Tiro into the anti-mage role.
Yeah.
Oh, and they buffed Army of the Dead.
Yeah, that was a little.
Why did they do that?
Surprising to see. Like lower the cooldown, that's one thing, but
they wanted to make it less impactful, so they lowered the cooldown. You know.
And then they buffed it.
And then buffed it.
The fact that ghouls are actually like a source of damage now, potentially, like a little bit more so, is like, come on, why? The next patch Bakery, they're gonna let us target the ghouls.
You're gonna get party frames for all the ghouls.
Yeah,
clickable.
They're gonna pop up like under Arthas.
But you can't click on Arthas icon. You can only click on the ghoul icons. So.
And every time you get a kill, they get 5 more minutes of duration on the minion. Yep, sweet. I mean, yeah, obviously Arthas has not seen a lot of play. Bakery, you're like the only team that had like a fair bit of Arthas this season with Zalia. Yeah, I mean, is that why you're looking at him as like a little bit more like he didn't need this love? Because like we don't see a lot of him globally.
I mean, I don't think he was in a great position before. That's what I said a bit earlier. Like somehow they made a more unhealthy kit, but that's impressive. But yeah, I just feel like what Arthas needed to me was, it's like the Lich King. Like he should be like he should be scary. But right now it's just kind of like, hey, we can't really ignore him, but we can kind of just run away because we can't stand near him. I'm not scared of an Arthas. I'm just annoyed right now. Like I want him to be like I don't know. I think something that I've always played around with in terms of Arthas for me is like if he keeps moving in the same direction, like for like a decent amount, like he gets faster and faster up to maybe like 20% move speed. So like I think there's definitely got like you can definitely play like around that as the Arthas. Let's say again, like let's go back to that Probius like tribute situation, the bottom middle one. If there's an Arthas that goes like all the way back to vision, like and then just straight line, like runs in, ends up at like mount speed, like this Arthas running at you, then he's scary, right? Like that feels like Arthas to me. But right now he's just kind of like slowly walking at you with an attack speed slow. That means you can't stand near him.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the point of all these changes were, to be completely honest. Like,
look, okay. One more thing: the fact that you make him like an anti-auto attacker, and then you put his like anti-auto attack on a melee range abilities, like what?
I mean, he's like strictly anti-melee auto attacker, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
Which there's not a lot of prominent ones in the meta. Like Alarak is RIP. Thrall is saw like 3 games played maybe in Katowice. Like they're all so very niche in the current meta, which is weird. You see bruisers, you see the Sonyas, you see the second tanks fulfilling that role almost every single game.
Yeah, it's curious they haven't touched Dahaka yet.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, they reworked him slightly after BlizzCon.
Yeah.
And he landed like at exactly the same place, but with a more fun kit. I actually quite like the Dahaka rework.
Yeah, the burrow and everything. It's a cool option. So, I mean, if we look at all these tanks, you can see they're adding the physical armor, they're adding the spell armor. Like, they're trying to confine warriors into roles. And obviously, people are not thrilled by some of these changes and saying, you're taking away our option of responding within the game via talents and putting infinite more emphasis on these heroes in the draft, saying, look, if you're drafting this warrior, you're drafting this warrior because you're against this. Overall, do you guys think this is going to take a lot away from the draft and make it like warriors have to be in the tail end, or what are your thoughts?
I actually had quite a few thoughts on this.
Okay.
Like the first thing I see a lot of people saying like this is making the game more about the draft, which is true, and then the direct connection, like if you don't think about it, is okay. So draft is more important. Draft is harder, but that's not true. Right now, like there are so many like weird factors in draft. Like it's super confusing to understand like what drafts are good and what drafts are bad. Like even in competitive. So in Hero League, you have no hope. But the fact that you make it super simple, you're like, this is good against this, and you make it clear, and everybody can know that because they have like spell armor. That creates a situation where people then know what they're drafting about. So drafting actually becomes way easier if this goes through for every tank. Like, not harder, like I see a lot of people saying. I also touched on it a bit earlier with supports. Like right now, we only have 2 supports that aren't situational. Everyone's first picking one because he's broken, and then people are being forced to pick the other one because they want to not last pick the support, and then they're losing a lot because he's not that great. So yeah, I think having every tank being situational is just like it just like loses a lot of depth in draft. I don't like it.
Can you go over your point about why you think it makes draft easier, though? For like,
because it makes the variables clear. Like right now, it's hard to work out what's good against what.
Are you, for a new player or competitive? Let's clarify that.
For what? Sorry.
For a new player, like your average player.
Oh no, both. Even in competitive, like, so right now, Tyrael, is he good against auto attackers? Well, yeah, because imposing. Is he good against Kel'Thas? Like that's the distinction. Is that's not the immediate connection that you make that Tyrael is good against Kel'Thas, but actually imposing's ridiculous against Kel'Thas. It completely destroys him. Is he good against Li Ming? Well, you think not, because Li Ming can't really get dived. But again, imposing destroys Li Ming, and Holy Ground makes it super hard for her to actually like follow up and get Calamity in team fights. So yeah, he's actually the best tank into Li Ming. It's things like that which right now aren't clear, but when you start giving tanks specific spell armor, they become clear, and then it becomes easier to draft around that.
I'm trying to think of like what kind of impact this has on the draft, right? Is it just going to be like, you get your favorite assassin first, or you get Mouth first, and then you kind of like wing it from there, and you save your warrior pick for last, and you have to look. It's really weird because if there's all these specific roles that are almost more defined than ever, it feels kind of uninteresting, right? It's like this is the correct pick here. I have to go Tyrael.
Okay, I agree that it is like it, but I want to try to illustrate it from a different angle. Okay, so like you assume, like let's go with the argument, we'll start with the belief that all of the heroes in the game should be different from each other, right? Like assuming the goal of the game is to have a healthy, balanced game, but also to have heterogeneous heroes. So like all the heroes are fundamentally different. Like I feel like in that universe, the draft is always going to have a very large influence on the outcome of the game. Like, let's say out of 100 potential points of value in terms of these 100 points decide who wins the game. Whoever gets more of these points wins. Like, yeah, the goal of the game is to kill the core, but you need to get to 51 points to win. Like, assuming the heroes are actually high in variety, the draft will always comprise some significant portion of the points in that game. Do you agree, Bakery? Like, the drafts have always been impactful, and they always will be impactful as long as the heroes are high variety.
Yeah, like, I think it's way more impactful in Heroes than other games, which is actually something I don't understand.
Okay.
But I do agree with your point there, yeah.
Okay. So now what we're saying, by increasing how targeted any given heroes are in the draft, we are increasing the allocation of those points to the draft phase. So out of that 100 points, let's say it went from being 30 points in the draft phase can be applied to 50 as you increase how targeted the drafts are. Now you're those points have to come from somewhere. You can't just get extra points that decide the fate of the game. They don't magically appear. To get a point add to the draft phase, you have to take it from somewhere. And the place you take it from is from talent diversity and actual gameplay. So what you're doing is you're taking points from decisions players are making in the actual game and putting more weight on the draft phase. And I think that is the exact opposite of what the goal of a healthy design philosophy is for a MOBA. Your goal should be to have the most diverse range of heroes with the most depth, with the least possible complexity, that has the least amount of hard counters, in my opinion. So these changes, I think, are all in a bad direction because they are focusing on making more targeted picks in the draft phase, which are essentially removing your opportunities to decide the fate of the game in the actual game.
Yeah. And that's...
Now...
Go ahead.
And then... Okay, yeah, and I want to talk about imposing will separately later, but I mean, I just wanted to get that off my chest because that's what I was trying to get across when I was talking to you on Twitter yesterday, Bakery. Like, that's like kind of where I wanted to go with this. Like, but I mean, it's really hard to get that across in 140 characters. Yeah.
Right. So, in terms of how I see that argument, like I also hate these changes, right? So I agree with you there, but the fact that you say it's like 50 points in draft, like 50 points come from draft, sure, but it's also like it's now easier to score points in draft. That's kind of my point. And also the fact that they moved away from like a hard counter in terms of a noob, like they reworked a noob when he was in a fine spot in Hero League and he was actually being picked in the situation they intended for him to be picked in competitive. Like the fact that they took that and then reworked him and moved him away from their initial goal shows to me that they don't want it to be rock, paper, scissors. They don't want these hard counters. But they do want to provide more, more clarity and an easier way to understand the drafting phase.
Okay, I agree with you that he was healthy for competitive, but I disagree that he was healthy for Hero League. I think if you looked at the win rates, he was just the best tank to pick at any given time in Hero League. No question, basically. And I am of the belief, I have less faith than you, I guess, in the balance team because they didn't mention your reason for nerfing a noob. They didn't mention that they felt like he was countering mages too hard. That's not the reason they gave for changing him. I think they just changed him because of the win rates, plain and simple, and not because they came to some epiphany that they made a mistake with the spell armor stacking with dampen, etc., and that they had to nerf it. I think they just decided to take some power away.
If that's the case, then like these changes like unredeemable. Like
here's my evidence. Bad. Here's my evidence why
Detective Duncan.
I think you are incorrect. If you look at the changes they made to the variant talent tiers at 13 and 16, they swapped the order of the banners and the, let's call them the hate talents. And I say hate talents because it's like a term for Magic the Gathering where if you have a hate card, it's a card that specifically targets one thing and like punishes it to an extent that that card is very narrow but very powerful. And in this respect, I'm talking specifically about Shattering Throw and Mortal Strike. They specifically moved those to an earlier tier because they wanted more impact. They wanted more effect from those hate talents. And I think that is a strictly bad decision. Yeah,
I agree. Like, I don't know. And the reason they gave there as well was that they wanted more impact in draft in that patch. Like, they wanted Varian to be drafted for those talents, which, again, I think is a fine goal, but in the overarching kind of health of the game, I think that's just wrong. Like, I really do.
Do you think they're trying to promote more diversity in terms of types of damage? So that, like, if you do go for a Varian, it'll force you into like a melee auto attack hero because it'll be good against it, kind of deal, as well as the mage to like expand upon that, rather than like allowing for double spellcaster to be like a sustainable go-to.
I mean, the ideal should be to have a variety of hero styles represented, yes, but I don't think the way you do that is in this manner. You can have that accomplished by having heroes that are naturally stronger. Okay, so this is an interesting point. Baker, you kind of like that it's a little more explicit what heroes are at least theoretically good against what things, right? Like, that's something you actually think is kind of good about this, is that there's added clarity to,
definitely.
Like, this hero is, to a new player, there is more clarity here about the fact that Johanna is good against auto attackers and that Anubrax is good against casters. I would argue that clarity in and of itself doesn't actually improve the game. And if it comes at the cost of like making the heroes more like targeted in their power and taking away from the choices you can make in talents essentially, because now a noob, you can't choose to make him more anti-magic. He's just an anti-magic hero, basically. Like, I think that's a problem. And I mean, I can see where you're coming from, where like having some amount of clarity is good. I think it's better when the hero's strengths against other heroes is from something organic. Like you were talking about the Kael'thas versus Tyrael, or Kael'thas versus Li Ming. It's organic because you don't look at that hero and have it be written out for you in big flashing letters like Tyrael is really good against these heroes. It's like, oh, if I take Imposing Will and then I activate it when I have Living Bomb on me, suddenly like I have a way to control Kael'thas and like it's actually really powerful. That's the kind of interaction, that's the kind of thing that I love. And I think the spell armor is like the lazy way to do it.
I think your point there is very similar to Dread's about questing talents. Like he felt like it was just a lazy way to try and like provide some changes, when he felt like if you actually sat down and you worked out like what you wanted to do with the talent system, which honestly I still don't think Blizzard has fully nailed down. Like it seems like what they want to do with it changes every few months
Based
or so.
on each hero, that really, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think spell armor is like really boring. And like Tyrael was actually my favorite hero, like in competitive, to like have in the meta, because there was so much depth of skill, which there were like tiers of Tyrael players, right? Like, so the first tier is like they understand how to use Sank. No, actually, the first is understanding how to use Holy Ground. Like the second is Sank. The third is Imposing, and then the fourth is like how to damage with Tyrael. Like maybe they mix up a bit, like for different players, but you could definitely see which Tyrael players had wits down and how that affected the game. Like they literally, back in spring when Korea was playing Tyrael and no other region was, it literally looked like different heroes.
Yeah.
That's how big the difference was, and none of that was intended to be played that way. That's just like the hero kit started working. So I guess we've kind of segued into imposing will removal, which is one of my least favorite changes they've ever made to the game.
What if they give him Cast Aside back? Would you like that less or more?
I didn't like Cast Aside.
No
personally.
one liked it.
I mean, when it got removed, everyone loved that talent.
Oh, I thought you meant you didn't like having it in the game. No one liked having it in the game. It was OP, man. It was so good.
I mean, yeah, I really hated it for the game. Like,
So
that really is weird. Bad talent.
what would you think about? Okay, to be honest, like Imposing Will is a really powerful talent. Holy Ground is a really powerful talent. Cast Aside was a really powerful talent. I feel like the 13 talents you currently have available to choose from on Tyrael after Imposing Will feel extremely watered down and weak. And I think instead of removing Cast Aside or Imposing Will, they should have tuned them in other manners by either adding downsides or collapsing them onto the same tier so you could only pick one, or some mixture of the two. Like, for example, let's say we look at Tyrael and we go, okay, obviously we've had these two broken talents at level 13 before on Tyrael, and like we didn't feel they could be balanced. Like, why not just collapse the tier and make like a Varian-esque level 4 tier, but on 13 where you have like these three talents, Holy Ground, Imposing, and Cast Aside, that are extremely powerful, and then it actually serves the function of talents changing the way your hero is played and giving you like stylistic diversity, but like still reducing the power level because you can't stack multiple of them. I feel like that's a way healthier way to approach this than just taking out Imposing.
I think the reason Cast Aside was removed is because it just didn't work properly.
And people didn't understand it at the low level either. People got confused constantly.
It was a terrible talent, but like, I completely agree. This is kind of like slightly different point, but something that I've always liked about the talent system is that there didn't necessarily have to be good choices at the tier. There didn't have to be any like an actual good design even. Like, all that needed to happen was like there was a single good talent, and then that changed the game. And that's what I really liked is so when Tyrael hits 13, like if Tyrael's only option at 13 was Imposing, that would still be fun for me. Like, because the fun wouldn't come from picking the talent, the fun would come from how the talent changed the game.
Yeah.
So yeah, the fact that they just like removed the talent, and okay, so we all know the reason that they removed the talent was basically he's now an anti-mage, so having an attack speed slow makes no sense. Also, the talent was broken anyway, so just make it like a move speed slow, would still have the same issues if you could pick nothing else at the tier. Maybe move it to 20 or something, but then it's like a storm talent, and that all gets weird. I understand why they removed it. I definitely think it's a mistake, and I completely agree, but I wouldn't collapse like them onto the same tier. Like, I still like having Imposing coming at 13, like Holy Ground at 16, but just looking at like some of these other talents, like Salvation, each hero is affected by righteousness, that's his W by the way, his shield, increases Tyrael's shield amount by 45%. Let's make that 100. Let's make Tyrael have a 500% shield, and you would still not pick it over Holy Ground in some games.
Right.
But like, then that becomes super fun, right? Like a team stack, I'm gonna have like a storm shield for everyone. It's gonna be insane. But like, I don't know. There's so many options that they had to fix the issues of Holy Ground being broken and Imposing being broken. Like, Angelic Absorption. Instead of making it like over 4 seconds, let's just make it 800 HP instantly if someone attacks you while like you have your shield up. It can only pluck once per shield. Something like this, where it becomes like, don't focus Tyrael, he's got his shield up, he's taking that talent. And just make it a super strong talent. And then you'd actually have choices between the tiers.
I have a question for you guys on the whole clamp change. I'm trying to figure it out. I perceived that as your sword was stuck at the max range. Is that like a quick cast only change or?
My understanding of what the clamp means is that, like, if you have an ability and you try to target it outside of max range, the ability will be cast at max range in the direction which you targeted it. That's my understanding of what the clamp writing means. And that is a targeting / control style that makes a lot of sense for mobility spells, because in general, when you cast it, you just want to go in the direction you're casting rather than move to the range where you can actually cast the ability at that distance and then cast it. So if you just stand still for a second and then try to cast Q outside of the max range of material,
like cast it on mouth or something.
Yeah, just press Q, like, and then click right now. You see how it casts immediately? What it previously would do is walk him into range to cast it precisely where you clicked, and then activate the ability.
I see.
And it's a huge smoothness improvement for, like, a blink, for example, where you're playing Zeratul and you see an enemy spell coming at you and you panic and you have to blink out of range, right? And you want a max range blink. Before, if you click a little too far out, your Zeratul tries to walk into range of where you blink targeted to and then cast blink, whereas now it immediately casts it. So I think it makes the gameplay experience a lot smoother for specifically movement abilities. But it does have some issues for things with really finicky targeting, like let's say you're trying to target Holy Ground on a point.
Yeah.
It can be really awkward where now you have to make sure you're absolutely within range to cast it, whereas before, if you were slightly out of range, you would move to the appropriate position and cast it. So there are some ups and downs, but in general, I prefer it this way.
Just gonna take some getting used to, probably.
Like the first 16 levels, I think this is definitely a better implementation for him. But yeah, I don't know. I think just toggling, like toggling whether it clamps or not, would be the correct compromise.
Well, that's cool though. Interesting change that I didn't expect. Obviously, some people will be really pissed off because they're just not used to it, right? Like misplays will certainly happen for a while on Tyrael players, if they still exist after this. I don't know. We talked about the point a lot. I mean, obviously the implications in draft, we won't really know what's going to happen until we see some tournaments go on to see what kind of impact this has. I mean, as it stands, the Warrior pool still feels like pretty figured out for the opening of the draft. I think my big fear is that we see even more prominence, just like, okay, Varian and ETC are the go-to to start the draft, or whatever it ends up being, just like Rhaegar and Malf are like the first two options for support.
Well, I think Muradin's going to be good in every situation. So, again, he's just going to become the go-to. ETC also wasn't touched, so he'll probably be go-to as well. And then, if you ever see a tank picked after those, it has to be a late.
Right.
If they go with these, this direction. So that makes drafts super boring around tanks, potentially. And obviously, right now, the same things happen to support, where some supports don't have cleanse, so you can't pick them early. Others don't have any burst heal. Others have only burst heal. So again, it feels like you just have to pick everything last, otherwise you sabotage yourself in draft.
I think the way to get around this is to introduce more talents that have trade-offs. I know Blizzard is really scared of putting talents in the game that make your ability worse in some way, but I feel like that's the only way you can correctly allow the amount of variety that we actually need in the game. Like, the differences between the systems of items and talents means that there's less, you have less potential choices at any given talent tier than you might have item choices in a given point in the game, and there are less economic things tied into that.
Right.
So I feel like you need more extreme changes in your talents. You need talents that have downsides added instead of strictly upsides to get around that and allow a little more capability to adapt in game. But
so in theory,
I don't know.
Let's say it's level 16 on Tyrael, you take away the movement speed on Smite in favor of a ton of burst or something, but just as a really baseline object. Or maybe you take away the movement speed and you add a slow on it.
I mean something. I don't know. I just think that downsides are a little underused right now and might help some of the concerns we're having, but I'm not sure.
Well, before we wrap up for the night, I mean, the PTR is shutting down in 10 minutes. One thing we didn't talk about, we kind of like jumped right over before we close in, IEM Katowice, is talking about a comparison to NA and EU. And I feel like that's important to talk about because we didn't really mention that, well, top three was indeed Europe and NA was behind. I'm going to throw this to you, Bakery, first. Overall, how big of a gap do you think there is between the regions? At least the top three of each.
Yeah, only talking about top three. I think the gap's pretty big. Like,
is it in drafting? Is it in everything? Like, where do you think the gap is largest overall?
I mean, I think NA has a huge issue with draft, where I don't know. I don't want to judge people's thoughts behind actions. That feels wrong, but this is my best guess at what they are thinking. It feels like they look at the global meta and they look at Europe and they look at Korea doing well with these picks, and they look at themselves doing well with different picks that the other regions kind of just ignore, and then like they don't change anything. Like they're okay with this or something. I get like the fact that Artanis was such a huge deal for the first 2 weeks and nobody else cared on any map that wasn't Battlefield. But like no one in NA actually tried to change that. They just kept picking it. Like no one tried picking Korean drafts or European drafts. Like it just doesn't make sense to me, honestly. It feels like there has to be some hubris or some overconfidence or something, but like every NA player that I spoke to was well aware that obviously they had catching up to do. I don't know. It's hard for me.
When I looked at some of the drafts at the top of the weekend, I felt like these teams aren't playing their own game. They're trying to play a different game at this event. To like GFE versus Fnatic. They opened up and they did their Lucio draft and it didn't work, and then they did a hammer cheese. It almost felt like they went into it with a mentality of like, if we play straight up, we lose. And as a competitor, I feel like that's a bad mindset against any team.
Yeah, I can definitely see a point there. That's not what you want to go into the series with. But to be honest, I feel like that has to be the correct mindset. Because I do not think that GFE has the understanding of draft and the mechanical level to play against Fnatic in a best of 5 and
that was a
like
best of
match
3,
them.
But, that was
their set was best of 3. But
I don't know. It's just
I
disappointing.
personally think there was you should have tried it in a best of 3. It didn't matter. It was winner bracket anyway. They should have tried going into like just going we can match them, but I think it's unrealistic. Like it's the same as let's say us right now. If we go up against L5 and we say we can match these guys, like let's take him. Like it's not gonna happen. We're gonna need like an edge, or we're gonna need to do something differently, or we're gonna need more time.
Dunk, any thoughts on NA versus EU, where NA stands, their performance, their drafts, all of the above?
I think I mostly agree with Bakery. To be honest, I think the pressure to improve has to come from the lower teams, though, more than the higher teams. Like, I think Europe improved so much over, let's say, the past 6 months relative to NA because, like, Misfits, Fnatic, and Dig all had someone snapping on their heels to try and earn their BlizzCon spot, for example. Like, there's a lot of contention for the difference between being second in the region or third in the region. So that pressure is essentially from below, where the lower teams are trying to push to take the spot of the higher teams. And I feel like in NA right now, Team 8 has actually done a good job of that, but I don't know if there's enough depth in the scene to keep pushing NA to be better, and it's hard to improve if let's say all 3 teams in NA were on the same exact level of the top teams, but there's a huge gap below them. Then there's not that much pressure from below to keep improving. I think that makes it difficult.
With the next big lance is going to be top 2 from NA, just like a BlizzCon, since it is indeed a true global. Let's assume that B-Step steps it up, and B-Step, who has been playing far better in the latter half of the season so far, steps it up. And we've got 4 teams that are solid out of the 8 in the HGC Open Division that are all vying for those top 2 spots. Do you think that there would be enough drive with 4 teams just kind of fighting for those spots with each other to see NA make a significant improvement going into Sweden?
If there were 4 teams, yes.
So the way that I see it,